Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Or if you happen to be new, please don't forget to click that big old subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. Today I'm talking to you guys about Star Trek Prodigy. Finally, we have some new images, some information about the supporting cast on this show, and a little bit more tidbits from the producers about what we might expect from this brand new Star Trek animated series. So let's get stuck into that. Star Trek Prodigy takes place in the year 2383, which is about 5 years after the USS Voyager returned to Earth from the Delta Quadrant, and about 4 years after the events of Star Trek Nemesis. Now, in terms of the premise for this series, for you guys that don't know, Star Trek Prodigy is going to follow this motley crew of young aliens in the Delta Quadrant. They find a derelict Starfleet ship and end up navigating a greater galaxy in search of a better future. These kids apparently are incarcerated on an obscure planet in an uncharted part of the galaxy, which I'm assuming is part of the Delta Quadrant, and they essentially escape their imprisonment and race across the planet to find a defunct Starfleet ship buried in the sand on the planet's surface, and when they fire it up, it's got an emergency training hologram in the form of Captain Janeway, which guides them on their journey. We're going to go through the characters one by one, talk about who's voicing them, and also a little bit more information about the characters' species, and also the character they'll be playing on the show. And some of these choices really sound interesting, some great casting choices, and some great character information there as well. The first character I'm going to talk about today is the character of Jankum Pog, a 16-year-old Tellarite, and it seems like he's going to be playing sort of more like the engineer type character, or the maintenance sort of fix-it role on the ship. Jankum Pog is played by none other than Jason Mantzoukas, who you guys might remember, who played Adrian Pimento in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and also I think he played Derek, the not quite right assistant generated in The Good Place. Both Michael Schur comedy series, which I love The Good Place, and also love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Jason Mantzoukas is a great choice for this character, and I think he's probably gruff enough and, you know, a bit weird and a bit sort of psycho enough to pull off a Tellarite character in Star Trek. Now, all we know about the Jankum Pog, this Tellarite, is that he's 16 years old. He loves to relish a bit of an argument, as Tellarites do. Apart from that, there's not a huge amount more information about this character, but I think this is an interesting character nonetheless. Interesting that we've got a Tellarite on board the ship, because I know that the series of Prodigy takes place in the Delta Quadrant, and it seems like we've got some Alpha Quadrant races on board in the crew there, as well as some unknown Delta Quadrant races there as well. Now, the second cast member is the character of Murph. Now, Murph is the indestructible blob kind of character, or as I think I referred to him in one of my previous videos, he seems like the Yaphet character. If you guys watch The Orville, there's a character which is basically a blob that moves around the ship and has a bit of a sense of humour, and in the character of Yaphet. So it seems like this character of Murph is kind of in that ballpark. And Murph is played by none other than voice actor legend D. Bradley Baker. You guys would know D. Bradley Baker for all you Star Wars fans out there. He does the voice for all of the clone troopers in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and also now The Bad Batch as well. So D has done all the voices for not only all those clones and all those Star Wars animated series, but umpteen other characters as well. That's probably a list as long as my arm. But yeah, most well known for all of the voices for all the clones in the various different Star Wars animated series. So a great pedigree of voice acting talent in the role of Murph. There's no information in terms of Murph's species. It just says his age and species is unknown. All we know, he's basically an indestructible blob. He's got a bit of a smile on his face. He looks like he's a bit of a cheeky character. Apparently he has an insatiable appetite for ship parts. So it seems like he might be trying to eat everything on board whatever Federation starship these guys end up on. Now, our next character on board the show is 17-year-old Val Nukat. Now, Val Nukat is the race of his character. The character name is called Gwyn, who was raised on her father's bleak mining planet and grew up dreaming of exploring the stars. And she's voiced by Ella Purnell, who is in Army of the Dead and Sweet Bitter, amongst other things. And I'm guessing that she's possibly one of our new characters, maybe from the Delta Quadrant, because we know Prodigy takes place in the Delta Quadrant. So doesn't look like a race we've encountered before in the Alpha Quadrant, so I'm going to assume this is one of our new Delta Quadrant races as part of our crew for this show. Now, the next character is a hark back to an old original Star Trek episode from Season 3 called Is There in Truth No Beauty? In that original series episode, we were introduced to a race of non-corporeal, genderless, energy-based life forms known as the Medusans. Now, the Medusans were a highly intelligent, telepathic and empathic non-corporeal race. Their thoughts were the most sublime in the galaxy, but their physical appearance was exactly the opposite. Their appearance was so utterly hideous to humanoids that the sight of a Medusan rendered any viewer mad and soon afterwards caused death by massive organ failure. Vulcans were apparently capable of viewing Medusans, but only with the use of a specially filtered visor. For those reasons, Medusans usually used an opaque carrier pod when interfacing with other species. The Medusans were renowned for their navigational abilities. It would seem like our character of Zero uses a mechanical suit to get around in. So it would seem like this character called Zero, who is voiced by Angus Imrie, who you guys might have seen before in the TV show The Crown. I think he played Prince Edward, and also the series Emma as well. And his character of Zero wears a containment suit made to protect himself and to protect others. So it seems like, yes, he's a non-corporeal energy life form that uses this robot suit to kind of get around in. So that could be an interesting dynamic for this character. Now, our next character, who a lot of people I think were kind of speculating might have been a Talaxian, isn't a Talaxian, and this is the character of Dahl. Dahl is a 17-year-old member of an unknown species, and he fancies himself as a bit of a maverick who, even in the toughest times, holds strong to his unwavering hope. And the character of Dahl, voiced by Brett Gray, who's been on shows such as On My Block and When They See Us. And the last character in Star Trek Prodigy to talk about, before we have a look at some images from the show, is the character of Rock Tark. Rock Tark is the big giant rock-like creature that sort of somewhat resembles the Thing from the Fantastic Four. And ironically, this giant rock-like creature is voiced by a sweet-looking 8-year-old girl. This is a very contrasting character, this one, where you've got this giant, great hulking rock character, but with a sweet little girl at the heart of it. So Rock Tark is an unusually bright 8-year-old girl from Brickar. Rock is a bit shy, but not when it comes to her love for animals. Voiced by Riley Lazaricki from Doug Unplugs, Home Economics and other bits and pieces. So this could be quite an interesting contrast of character, this sweet little 8-year-old girl who looks like a hulking great thing or some sort of giant rock monster. That's a nice contrast, I think. That could be quite interesting, I think, and be the cause of some quite interesting jokes of mistaken identity and perception and assumption as well. We've got a couple of production stills from the series just to get a bit of a look at what our series of Prodigy is going to look like. The first image is a look at the character of Dahl, and it looks like in this shot Dahl is gazing out the front view screen of whatever Federation starship they happen to be on. We can see the curved ops and navigation consoles there that are stationed at the front part of the bridge, so the typical Starfleet vessel layout there with the ship bridge configuration, and he's obviously gazing out the front view screen into the depths of space, which looks quite beautiful. So the animation style looks great in this series. Another shot of this same character of Dahl, where he sort of looks a bit troubled, a bit scared. He's leaning up against some sort of air vent or grate, maybe something to do with the fact that these kids are initially incarcerated. I think there's been some talk about the plotting of how Prodigy starts, which is having a lot of these kids imprisoned on some sort of prison planet or something to that effect. So whether this is an early shot in the show where this character is still incarcerated before they get up on the Federation ship there. Next up is a shot of the character of Gwyn, the 17-year-old Val Nukat female, and she's just sort of gazing, possibly out a window as well, and we can see a little bit more detail of her hair and her costume, some of the markings on her face and so forth in this shot here, which looks quite interesting. And the final production photo we have from our characters here in Prodigy is a shot of Roktark. Now, Roktark appears to be doing some welding in this shot. He's got the big welding goggles on. There's a few sparks coming up off things. So you've got this sweet little 8-year-old gigantic rock creature doing a bit of heavy maintenance with a welder there. So that's going to be, it's an interesting contradiction in character, I think there. So that's going to be interesting to see. So it seems like we've got a good mix of characters. We've got some known Alpha Quadrant races on this show in the form of the Medusa, in the form of the Tellarites. And we've also got a few new races there from the Delta Quadrant we haven't seen before. So this is going to be an interesting mix. So what do you guys think about this character and casting information we now have about Star Trek Prodigy? I'm guessing we're going to be getting a trailer for this show pretty soon. We've now got production stills. We've got information about the cast. The next thing I reckon that's going to hit us is a trailer. Are you excited for Prodigy, or are you, I'm not kind of that interested in animated shows? I love the Star Wars animated series, you know, Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Bad Batch, and all that sort of thing. I think they're great, but they are marketed towards a sort of a universal audience. Kids can watch them, adults can watch them and enjoy them. They're not exclusively a kids show, I think. And if Prodigy goes down this road, I think that's going to be really good. Hopefully, the show isn't going to be too kiddie-ish and marketed at a too younger audience. If it's kind of targeted at that sort of similar age demographic that the various Clone Wars series are targeted at, I think that's probably going to be good for the show. Lord knows, I think there's probably been a few creative choices in Star Trek of recent years that have been a bit too dark and a bit too adult, where I haven't been able to let my kids watch Star Trek series. Certainly Star Trek Picard and also Star Trek Discovery have had some pretty graphic things happening in them, with eyeballs being plucked out and, you know, vicious murders and so forth, that really put those shows in a much adult age bracket, to the point where, yeah, Star Trek is no longer one of those shows that, you know, is accessible to all ages. So I'm hoping that Prodigy is a little bit more open to both kids and adults to watch the series. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing Kate Mulgrew reprise her role as Captain Janeway. That's going to be great to see. Let me know what you guys think about this new show. Are you excited? Are you not excited? What are you looking forward to most? What are you liking about these new information about the characters and the casting choices? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to share this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and check out my merchandise my merchandise in the merch store, where you can pick up some great Star Trek themed t-shirts, mugs, caps, hoodies, and all that sort of thing. And I'll catch you guys really soon for my next video. See you then.